Joe Rogan obliterated politicians with nothing but cold, brutal, undeniable facts.
This guy's like standing in front of all this stuff, and he's got a smile on his face, and he's talking about land use.
From ripping apart Gavin Newsom's over-the-top wildfire theatrics to putting Bernie Sanders on the spot with cold, hard facts.
Look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure.
That's why you simply cannot afford to skip today's video. Buckle up as you're in for a treat.
Like what's going on? Did you see what's going on? Obviously, you've seen what's going on in California. But the governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down while it's still only 6% contained. And he did this little dance like, I've been talking with these, with the governor of Hawaii about what to do. We've got some ideas. A speculator, we're gonna have some meetings. Like he's
really?
Oh, show it to him, Jamie. It's so creepy because it's happening while these people their houses have been burned, all their childhood memorabilia, all the stuff for their kids, the photos, and everything they have is gone. All heirlooms, their mother's wedding ring, that kind of shit. Everything's burnt to the ground. And this guy's like standing in front of all this stuff, and he's got a smile on his face.
What Gavin Newsom did during the LA wildfires was nothing short of ridiculous. At one point, he literally faked a phone call with the former president just to avoid a woman demanding answers. It was the kind of stunt only a politician convinced of his own invincibility would try. You elect them. And suddenly they're hovering above the mess they helped create. But Joe Rogan wasn't letting it slide. He told Jamie to pull up the clip, and watching it unfold hits way harder than just hearing about it.
Watch this. Play this.
I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
With a big smile on his face. Look at the little wiggle he does with his shoulders. Speculator, watch this. Talking to Josh. Look at this. Look at this little wiggle. The amount of money they could have saved by just clearing brush, by filling the reservoir, that 11 million gallon reservoir was completely empty during the time of full fire season. Like, why didn't you fix that?
Yeah.
Like, it's all insanely mismanaged. And then this guy is on television talking about, real excited about that. Doing a dance in front of the burned down home that people used to sleep in, where their children would sleep in.
To be fair, Gavin Newsom was trying to highlight a real estate developer swooping in to buy fire-damaged properties for next to nothing, taking advantage of desperate homeowners. Even referenced Hawaii's governor, pointing out that a similar situation unfolded during the Maui wildfires a year earlier. But let's be honest, California still ranks as one of the worst-run states in the country. Many LA wildfire victims are still battling insurance nightmares, facing endless delays or outright denials. It's chaos. Out. And coming up, Bernie Sanders gets a harsh reality check on climate change.
You got to deal with this climate change issue. And I know that, there are some people who think climate change is a hoax. It ain't a hoax. I think the last 10 years have been the warmest on record. And we can create millions of good-paying jobs, transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to solar, to wind, and other sustainable energies.
I think the climate change issue is very complicated. And I think, did you see the Washington Post piece that they wrote, where they did this long-term view? First of all, the reality is that the Earth's temperature has never been static, right? We can both agree on that. It's always been up and down. There's been ice ages and heat waves. And then the Washington Post looked at it. What was the time period that they looked at? That essentially they found that we're in a cooling period. Scientists have captured the Earth's climate change over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read that article.
For context, the article Joe's reading from was published late last year and cites a study that combined over 150,000 fossil records with advanced climate models. If you zoom in on the graph, you'll see shaded areas indicating a 68% probability range. In simple terms, even this study, which suggests We could be entering a cooling phase, relies heavily on assumptions and best guesses. Joe seized on that to highlight a bigger issue with today's climate change narratives. And to be fair, he made some pretty compelling points that are hard to ignore.
There's a lot of money involved in this whole climate change emergency issue, and there's a lot of control, and that's a big part of this problem. Not only that, if we're just talking about primarily carbon and carbon footprint, what are we going to do about China? Because China is like, what percentage of...
They are the major polluter right now in terms of carbon. We're number 2. We used to be 1. They're number 1 right now.
There's all these entanglements. Whenever someone's discussing something, whether it's economics or whether it's health issues or pharmaceutical drugs, there's financial entanglements. I think we both agree with that, right?
Yep.
And I think this is part of the issue with this whole climate change emergency as well, because it's not just that we could all agree pollution is a major factor. It's a huge issue in the world today. We could all agree with that, right? I think one of the things that we have to recognize is that whenever there's an issue that everyone can agree on, you're going to have a bunch of people that capitalize on that issue, and they look to gain more money. They have financial issues that they push forward in order to capitalize on this issue, but then also power and control.
Exactly. Let's break down what Joe just said, because this isn't some tinfoil hat rant. In the rush to meet net zero targets, governments worldwide have taken it upon themselves to dictate how ordinary people live through carbon taxes, electric vehicle mandates, and funneling billions in taxpayer money into so-called green initiatives, all while they hop on private jets to climate summits, burning more fuel in one trip than most people use all year. It's next-level hypocrisy. But nothing beats the moment Joe exposed Kamala Harris during her campaign. After she refused to appear on his show and somehow managed to blame him for it.
I heard you might have needed to cancel on us to get Kamala Harris on.
I was not going to do that. I would have had to. I knew you guys flew from England, and I wasn't going to cancel on you because she had an opportunity to come in. You could look at this and you say, oh, you're being a diva. But she had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invitation. I said, anytime. I said, if she's done at 10 o'clock, we'll come back here at 10 o'clock. I go, I'll do it at 9 in the morning. I'll do it at 10 p.m. I'll do it at midnight. She's up. She wants to, drink a Red Bull. We can party on.
Yeah, but I think this idea that you're being a diva is silly because you're offering her the opportunity to do exactly what the other candidate did, right?
Well, she actually reached out when she found out that he was coming on. So their camp reached out to me. So I said, great, I would love to talk to her. But it was very difficult to tie it down.
This episode dropped just 4 days after Trump's appearance, and by then, it was obvious Kamala Harris wasn't coming on. Excuses were flying, but Joe finally laid it all out. According to him, her team wanted a tightly controlled setup. Just 45 minutes to an hour, not on his set, and with concerns about the podcast being unedited. In other words, they weren't looking for an honest conversation. They wanted a polished PR moment. Still, some of Kamala's former campaign staffers kept pushing their own version of events. That's when Joe stepped in, shut it all down, and set the record straight.
One of the things they said that weren't true was that we lied about the day that Trump was coming on. No, we just didn't tell you that Trump was coming on. He was already booked a long time ago. This is how it worked. Trump was really easy to book, like super easy. We offered one day, he said yes, that was it. There was no, what are we going to talk about? How long is it going to be? Is it going to be edited? There was nothing. Yeah. What's the waiver? Here, give me that waiver. Sign it. It was so easy. So he was already booked. They never committed to doing the show. So all this talk, there was another thing they said that the reason why they did the Beyonce thing, the Beyonce event in Houston, was so that they could be in Texas to do my show. They never agreed to do the show. None of that's true. They never agreed. They also said that they sent someone down here to the studio to do a walkthrough of the set. That's not true. The Trump administration did.
I think it's fair to say Kamala skipping the podcast was one of many missteps in her campaign, and definitely not a minor one. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, so let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to share it with your friends. It really helps more than you know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.